Hey, this is Derek Murphy of creativity.com. What I'm going to do tonight is a quick makeover for this author's Spirit Hunger. This is one of the authors who's at the Castle Writing Retreat with me, and we're just taking a look at her covers. This is an urban fantasy, and basically what's happening is that it just looks washed out on Amazon. Most of the right stuff is here. There's just not enough contrast behind the text. Some of the magic looks a little bit homemade. And then also some of the feedback we got from another writer here is that this really looks like a shifter book because of the wolf here, and it's not actually a shifter romance. That may or may not matter too much, but we maybe don't want to get too many purchases from the wrong readers who will be disappointed that there's no shifter romance. I'd be tempted to leave it in just because I think the wolf would probably sell more books. But if that's not a main part of the book, or if there's no shifter romance, it may be attracting the wrong audience. So I'm just going to do a quick little makeover, change basically the color and saturation, and make the font stand out a little bit more. So one of the easy things here, there's a gradient fill to just add some color, but it's just set to normal, and that kind of just drowns out what's going on behind it. So I'm just going to change it to something like overlay, so that the color is still there, but the background also shows up. I'm going to do the same thing with this layer here, which is basically it's basically covering up because her legs don't go all the way down. So it's just filling in some space. It also covers the wolf's feet there, but I'm going to find a better way to do that. So I'm just going to blend this one down as well. It just adds a lot more color and saturation and stuff. And then to fix the girl's leg, I'm going to do a couple things. First, this is kind of cheap, but I'm just going to copy the last little section of her legs here. Copy paste. And then I'm just going to free transform that. So that doesn't look great, but I'm mostly going to cover it up with a gradient layer anyway. And I've already got this gradient layer down here, so I'm just going to duplicate that one, but change it to a little bit more dark black. And then instead of that overlay I used before, I might use something else. And then I have to drag it up above those pants. So that's not terrible. The legs kind of go down here, but you can barely see them anyway. I could probably even do it a bit like that, so you'll see a little more. The bend of the leg is a little bit weird because the knee should be like down here, but that's not really going to matter, especially when I fix this text a little bit. So first, let me get rid of that wolf I said I was going to get rid of. So with the text, I like to have a balance of the text elements. Right now, Spirit Walker Series Book 1, because they're the same size, they're fighting for attention. And because it's all the same color, it's all fighting for attention. So I could change one of the colors a little bit, and then I would change one of the sizes. So I added a little bit of glow down here. I'm going to do a couple things with the title text. First, I'm going to add a little bit of a drop shadow. That just helps it stick out a little bit more. And I'm also going to add a little bit of a gradient so the top of the spirit is brighter than the bottom. And I may need to add 2 gradients so that the top half of this word and the top half of this word stand out a little bit better. I got a little carried away and I actually went with a full layered text style, which looks like this. I've been zooming out because while you're working, you kind of want to see what it's actually going to look like. Oops. Like as a thumbnail, like you want to make sure that your text and your colors and everything looks good, even as a little small thumbnail. So you kind of have to zoom out. But this text really stands out a lot better. I'm not sure I love the gold yet, but I'm going to leave it for there right now. And the other thing is this author name up here. This is tricky because when you have lights in the background, like this E stands out really well, but the other letters don't really. So generally you have to decide, you know, are you going to make this light or dark? So the choice is, do I want to lighten up this background up here and keep the dark text, or do I want to do the opposite? I'll kind of do both and show you. Yeah, so this is real tricky actually because of this sun and this light layer coming back here, which I kind of want to keep. I actually can't make the dark top to make this white text stand out enough. So I'd have to make it really light like this, which isn't terrible, but it kind of messes up, kind of like this is the focal point of light. This is where I want people to be looking. So having this same lightness up here draws the eye away from what's happening here. It also makes the lighting a little bit weird. The light's coming up under her face and not from the top. So there's this really strong light. I would need to do some highlighting like on this side and on the hair, which I might do anyway. The other thing that's going on, there's actually quite a lot of unused space down here at the bottom. So I think I'm going to move some of this text down a little bit, see if I can get it off her hand. I also don't think this orange color, even the yellow of the sun, really goes with the whole purple vibe. So that's throwing me off a little bit. I'd like it to be more monochromatic. I personally prefer the author name at the bottom. I always feel it's kind of top heavy having the author name at the top. So my preference would probably be to put the author name down here, which would make it easier. It'd be a lot easier to read, and then I could just move book 1 or Spirit Walker series up here somewhere. So I'm also going to work on the magic a little bit. I said earlier these little stars, they kind of just look like a Photoshop brush or something. So I'm going to find those and get rid of those. And I also think this, the top bar and the bottom bar of this book 1, it's still taking up a lot of space. And those just aren't really doing much design-wise. So I might try to look for something else to replace those with. I found this little graphic, so a kind of easy thing I can do. Image adjustments, invert, and then just change the blend to screen. And I can kind of move this down here. It might actually be a little too busy. I'm not sure that I need all that, but if I move the text around a little, it'll probably look a little bit more suited to urban fantasy. There's usually good guides in Photoshop to try to put it in the middle. It's not showing up for me right now, but usually it'll show you kind of the lines to make sure you get it centered. And I don't actually like how it's coming down here in the middle. I'd prefer to have just a clean line. So I selected this little part, and I'm going to just try to delete that part. So that's basically fine for now. What I'd actually like to try doing later, I think I could put this book one graphic up here in this light space between the buildings and then move the author name down. I think that'd probably look better, but I'm going to leave it for now and go back to that magic stuff. Also, one of the things that's bothering me is there's like a pink layer, so it kind of washes out this hand, and rather that hand be brighter and more relief, probably with some magic around it. So I'm going to see where that top layer is. So I found that layer. It adds a lot of purple, so this is what it looks like without. Which is different and more in sharp relief. Probably I'll want a little bit of this, but not so much, and maybe I'll just blend the layer a little bit if I can. The other thing I think I'll do is just copy this whole layer with the model. So what I had to do is copy that whole layer and delete almost everything except the hand, and then brighten the hand a little bit. So it's a little bit of work, but I do like the way that that hand goes down. I didn't want it to be too faded out. Now I'm going to see what I can do with the magic. So she's already got a bit of a glow around her, which is a good start. I'm actually going to increase the glow a little bit, especially down on this hand that I'm kind of trying to draw out. I think I'm going to add some magic there later. And this is just an overlay layer with a color. I'm just using kind of a pink brush to put this on. And it's on top of the character of the girl. That's why when I put some lighting in here. The other thing that can work really well, I really want a new layer, but adding some brighter lights that come through, because it's still kind of faded out. So to do that, I'd have to go up above some of those gradients and add a new layer. And it's not quite, I want it a little bit brighter than that. And maybe even like down here where the light's coming through. And then what works pretty well is smoke swirls. So I'm going to drag this layer of smoke swirls, which looks like it's a little small. I should have gotten a higher res version. But if I set that to screen, that just gives it a lot of movement and dimension, which looks pretty cool. It also makes these lights that I added look a little more natural. I might play around with where I position this and where it shows up. And then I might add a little bit of fire or something. Oops. So I had this pink fire behind her, which looks pretty good. I'm gonna go up and go to retransform, transform and warp, so I can get it to kind of follow up her arm a little bit. Actually, it's gonna need to be a little bit bigger. And then I'll go to screen to get rid of the black background. And it doesn't stand out as much because now there's so much other stuff going on. But I might duplicate that and bring another version up in front of her hand. Like that, which might be a little bit too much. It kind of drowns out her hand. Maybe I'll just go to like, well, yeah, it's a bit too much because also the color. I may need to change the color so it's not that red. It's kind of drowning out her hand so much you can't even really see it. So to get rid of that bright orange color, I'm just going to go to Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and I could just desaturate it basically. But then it gets really smoky. Or I could just change the color a little bit and get it more pink so it matches the background better. It's kind of neat with like the blue, but I'm not sure what the magic is. With urban fantasy, you can get away with kind of, you refer to magic by adding magical elements, even if it doesn't exactly match, you know, the style of magic that's going on in your book. But that looks like there's a lot of cool stuff happening anyway with her hand. It might be too much. It's a little bit distracting. So that's looking really good down here. It'd almost be awesome if I could have her finger going over this R a little bit, which I kind of could do because I've already got that extra hand layer. But I'm actually going to focus up here on this for a while. This is a little ball of fire, but I'm going to see what else I can do to make it better.